Good evening and welcome. Welcome to Northern Michigan University's Presidential Scholars Competition, and this session is specifically for parents and other advocates for students, and it's our panel of experts session with a time for you to ask questions and for us to answer them. My name is Jerry Daniels, and I'm the Executive Director of Admissions here at NMU, and I'm really glad that you're joining us tonight. In a few moments, I'll be explaining a little bit more about how this session will work, but right now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Fritz Erickson, the president of Northern Michigan University, for a few remarks. Fritz?
Thanks so much, Jerry. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Although I have to admit I'm a little sad because I love the Presidential Scholars Competition when we do it in person. The opportunity to get to talk to parents and meet students and talk about all the terrific things that are going on at the university. But as we all know, we're living in a bit of a different world. And in that light, I thought I'd just take a little bit of time to tell you about what Northern has been like this semester. We've been back face-to-face. 85% of our students are taking some form of face-to-face class. Our amazing faculty are doing an incredible job pulling together opportunities for students to both Zoom into class, to come in person, to work in labs. The creativity and energy of our faculty and our staff in supporting our students has been absolutely remarkable. And it's really contributed to the fact that we've got such a low positivity rate on our campus. And I give all the credit in the world to our students who have taken this very seriously. They've worn their masks, they've social distanced. You don't see our students out with big parties. You don't see the kinds of things that we've seen at other institutions, because we are committed together as a university to keep each other happy, safe, and healthy. And I tell you, I've about worn my knuckles out knocking on wood, but we have just a few weeks to go to end the semester and end it all face-to-face, which we think is a very big accomplishment for us. It's part of the mentality that we have here at Northern. We're very committed to the success of our students. In fact, one of the things we often say to our students is when they first come, if you were told the goal was to go to college, that's not quite right. The goal is to graduate from college. And our collective goal is to help our students graduate, to be successful, to lay the foundation of wonderful careers and lives, to make the kinds of friendships that truly last a lifetime. And I'm gratified to report that even under these most trying situations, our students have made those friends, have found ways to connect with one another. They're outdoors, they're engaged. In fact, today, we've got a little bit of snow here, and saw students out riding fat tire bikes around in the snow. They couldn't wait. If there's anything we can do to answer your questions and be helpful, please don't hesitate to ask. And if all goes well, look forward to seeing you all in person come the fall and participate in freshman move-in day and the great excitement that brings. So have a wonderful experience tonight, and some terrific staff here to be able to answer lots of questions. So take advantage of their collective wisdom. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And while my co-moderator gets settled in, I'm going to explain a little bit about how this session will work. You'll notice that in the webinar, there's a Q&A feature, and that's where we invite you to type in your questions. Our scholarship coordinator, Kate Hooper, is behind the scenes, and she's going to be monitoring that and shifting those questions over to Chris and I to ask our panelists. The very next thing I'm going to do, though, is have our panelists introduce themselves. And really our theme for this whole session was about student opportunities and student support. So we asked some people to join us, staff and faculty here who are really experts in their areas, and really departments that offer a lot of opportunities for students, but also provide a lot of services that support our students in their success and their path to graduation. So I'm really thankful that they're here for us tonight. We will be recording this session, so if for some reason you're not able to stay with us through the entire time, you will be able to see the recording. We also have 1 hour together tonight, so we'll be wrapping up at about 7:30 Eastern time. If we are not able to get to all the questions that have been asked in the Q&A feature, my plan is to post those in an FAQ on the Presidential Scholars site within the next few days. And also, Chris and I will do our best to answer questions that might not be directly related to one of the panelist areas if you have one of those. But we don't know everything, even though we try to sometimes think that we do. But then I'm going to invite you to also email me directly if you have questions that you think of later, or if we weren't able to answer a question that you asked tonight. And then we'll find an expert on campus and get back to you. So with no further ado, I'm going to call on each panelist to introduce themselves, and then Chris and I will remember to introduce ourselves at the end because we forget that, and then we'll launch right into your questions. So here we go. I'm going to ask Mike Rotundo to start first. That's the old age before beauty thing, Mike. So if you wouldn't mind starting first, that would be great.
Thanks, Jerry. Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Mike Rotundo. I'm the director in the financial aid office. I've been at Northern for about 20 years now, about 15 of those as the director in the office. I'm originally from a little town called Ontonagon on the west side of the UP. I have a master's degree from Northern back in 1997. My wife also has a master's degree and her undergraduate from Northern. And both of our kids have gone to Northern. And my son graduated a couple of years ago, and my daughter will be graduating this spring. Just about our office, the primary function of the financial aid office is really to work with families to help identify financial resources to help pay for the student's education. And just to give you an idea, last year we processed about $85 million in financial aid, and about 93% of our incoming students receive some type of financial aid.
Thanks, Mike. Rachel, would you mind going next?
Sorry about the mute button. Trying to be quiet over here. Jerry, you're a natural at this. I feel like we got a talk show going here. My name is Rachel Harris, and I'm a Youper. I'm from Ironwood, Michigan, and I'm a first-generation college student. I did my undergraduate work at NMU, and my son graduated from Northern, so we have lots of Wildcat fever in our house. I am the director in the Center for Student Enrichment. I've been in that position for a long time. I've been at Northern for 24 years. I did the math today. I couldn't believe it. I work with the extracurricular, outside of the classroom types of activities, student organizations, leadership programming, all the fun stuff where you also gain a lot of skills by getting involved in it. So I'll hopefully tell you more about that later.
Thanks, Rachel. And to our audience, as you're listening to the areas that each of these staff and faculty members are responsible for, that might help you think of some questions you might have that we can pose to each one of them. Kat, can you go next, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Kat Hardenberg. I'm the Assistant Director of Residence Life here at Northern Michigan University. I've worked here at Northern in housing for 6 years now. Got my undergrad and my master's here at Northern. Our son, we have a 12-year-old son who's looking forward to being a Wildcat and gets very upset at the thought of anything else. So we're excited for that. And my job here at Northern for housing is I'm the supervisor of all the RDs, all the RAs. Here for housing, we house about 3,000 students. So everything from freshmen to seniors who are graduating. So I have a really great opportunity that I get to work with leaders and also students who are just trying to find their way. Every day is different. I love it.
Great, thank you. And we'll move from housing to food. Paul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Schoenveld. I'm the Director of Dining Services. I've been with Northern for 13 years already. Am originally from a small town just south of Grand Rapids, Michigan called Byron Center. So West Siders. I'm a two-time graduate of Northern, both my bachelor's and master's here from Northern, and am a classic example of a transplant who fell in love with the UP, Marquette, all things NMU, and my wife, who is from Marquette, and decided to never leave. Dining, we have a unique portfolio of operations. We have 9 unique venues across campus. We are the largest employer of students on campus. We've got all kinds of jobs, like any major enterprise. We have marketing jobs, IT jobs. We do have dishwashing jobs, although they're not all dishwashing jobs. But we've got a full infrastructure. We even have jobs about jobs. So students have opportunities to work in multiple facets of dining, and we have a lot going on. We try to keep our conversations individualized with students on campus. We want to hear from them directly so that we can take their feedback into consideration, and also handle special dietary needs directly with our registered dietitian, who does personal consults with all of our students that have any allergens or special dietary restrictions. We ultimately want to make sure students are eating safely on campus and are nourished in a variety of ways. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Paul. Anna, we'll take it over to you.
Thanks, Jerry. Good evening. My name is Anna Zimmer. I'm an associate professor of German and International Studies. I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska, and I've worked at Northern since the fall of 2015, and I have served as assistant director of our honors program since last fall. And I've been given just a moment to tell you a bit about one of Northern's many hidden gems, the honors program. We're intentionally a very small program with just under 300 students from almost all majors across campus. And in my humble opinion, Northern and our honors program offer kind of the best of both worlds. We offer the personal touch that you might find at a small liberal arts college with a little bit of a lower price tag, and the advanced research opportunities of a large research university in an incredibly beautiful location. So in short, I just want to say honors program students are fun, friendly, bright people, supported by very passionate faculty members, and we'd be delighted to welcome many of your children to come and live and work with this great group. Applications are, we have rolling admissions, so you can apply pretty much at any time. But the application only takes 30 minutes, so we encourage people to apply as early as possible. The program is becoming more popular and therefore more competitive, so it's great to get your application in early. And those can be completed at our website. If you just go to nmu.edu/honors. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And our audience, make sure you're putting your questions in the Q&A. We're getting a few in, and as you're hearing about the areas these staff and faculty cover, we'd love to have your questions about those. And so, Katie, can we say we saved the best for last?
Thanks, Jerry. So I'm Katie Corpy. I'm the director in career services here at Northern Michigan University. I have been with the university for about 12 years now. I did receive both my undergraduate degree and my master's degree here as well, because it's a great place, so why wouldn't I? I've worked in career services for a few years now, but I also worked in housing and residence life, and I did a short stint in academic advising. And I'm originally from Southeast Michigan, but like others, I do find Marquette and Northern Michigan University to be a wonderful place to be. So I stayed, and they can't get rid of me. But glad to meet with all of you tonight.
Great, thank you. And Chris, I almost forgot that we were going to introduce ourselves, so you're on next.
Good, I'm glad you remembered because I would have forgotten. Hi, I'm Chris Greer. I'm the Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students here. I also did the math today, Rachel, and I've been here 19 years. That is the longest I ever lived anywhere in my whole entire life. So it's a good place to be. I'm a bit of an outlier on staff here. I'm not from the UP. I'm not even from Michigan. I'm from Pennsylvania. Anybody from Pennsylvania out there? And I have no degrees from Northern, but 4 of my kids went here, 3 are alums, and all of their spouses went to Northern. So we've become a real Northern family. I just want to let you know what reports to me so that you know what questions you could ask. First generation program, veteran services, disability services, conduct, student support services, which is a grant program for first generation low income or students with disabilities, and the embedded success specialists, which is a new advising program. So
Jerry? Wow. And again, my name is Jerry Daniels. I'm also a Northern grad and was one of those people that moved away from my graduate degree and finished that and worked for a while in Ohio and then said, how can I get back to the place I love so much? So I'm very fortunate to have been here for over 33 years, all in admissions. And I've got 2 children that are also graduates from Northern. So again, lots of Wildcat pride in our household as well. The areas that I tend to get questions about might be things like how AP credit comes in, how we treat that, or students who have been dually enrolled or in middle college programs, how that works, or anything related to the admissions process, and some miscellaneous things I'm sure we can help you out with it as well. So we've got some questions coming in, and I think a really good one to start with is with Rachel. If you would talk about, someone heard about the Superior Edge program. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Thanks, Jerry. I love to talk about Superior Edge, so it's a joy. Superior Edge is a nationally recognized student development program that any student can participate in. It doesn't matter what year you are or your major. And it's open to everybody, and it's based on your schedule and your flexibility and your interest. So there's 4 different areas or edges that students can work towards. So those are citizenship, diversity, leadership, and real world. It takes 100 hours to complete each of those edges, but we help the students and they have their whole time while they're at Northern and things that they do over break. So say they have a summer job as a camp counselor, they're able to log those hours as part of their edges. One of the nice things is they can get a student, have all this on their student enrichment transcript, which is very nice because it kind of gives them that seal of approval that they did in fact go above and beyond during their academic career. And then we help them with opportunities too. So if they're new to the area and they're not sure how to get out and volunteer or how to make those connections or what opportunities they can take advantage of, we help provide those for them so that they can become engaged and connected and make friends and memories, and also in the process gain a lot of leadership skills and experiences.
Great. And then do students tend to start that right away in their first year, Rachel?
That's my hope. I would encourage your students as soon as they get here to join. It's very easy to join. They just go to a short orientation and it's about a half hour, 45 minutes, and we teach them how to put their information in the system. I kind of joke that it's like the National Honor Society on steroids. So it's similar to that, where they get to kind of log their different experiences that they have. So we'll teach them how to do that. But the sooner they join, the better. Then they can start logging their hours and for the different activities that they're involved in. And right away in housing, they get involved and they're participating. So they're able to start logging right away, and it's great to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Chris, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Okay, so a question came in. Do rooms have refrigerators for my child's insulin? Kat?
No, we don't provide mini fridges for the rooms. However, students, I don't know of any students who don't bring their own fridges. Most of the time they'll talk to their roommates and kind of coordinate that so that they can have one, unless they're really big eaters. Then they tend to bring their own. But they have to be 3 cubic feet or lower. So, we don't need like a one, like a made, huge one. So you want to watch that. And also, I know a lot of times we'll get questions about what happens when my insulin comes in for the postal service. A lot of times, we can be letting a student know as soon as we get their package, we put a package slip in their mailbox and the student just gets it. If it says refrigerated needed, we can put that in someplace to be refrigerated, but we work that out with the student individually. It hasn't been a problem.
Thanks, Kat. There was a second part to that, which I'll answer. Is there a health facility on campus? Yes, there is. It is staffed by 2 board-certified physicians, several nurse practitioners, 1 physician assistant, lots of RNs. The hours are 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but they do call. So students can reach them at any time.
Great. And Anna, there's a question for you about the honors program, about the requirements to be admitted, and also if you could talk about what some of the chief components are about the program.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So The qualifications for first-year student admission to the honors program normally include a high school grade point average of 3.5 or higher, and until this year, also a score on the ACT of 27 or higher. That said, because Northern is going to be test score blind this year, and honors, we're also not requiring those test scores. If you want to send them, go ahead, but it's not required that you take the ACT or SAT this year. And we really do look at your application holistically. You'll also write a short essay telling us about yourself and your interests. And we ask for a letter of recommendation from a high school teacher, coach, principal. So we try to get a good sense of who you are as an individual and someone pursuing academics to make sure you're a good fit for the program. Some of the main components of honors, we like to say that it's both an academic program, but it's also really important socially. So academically, many students complete what we call lower division honors, which is a series of 4 courses. And those classes have an average class size of only 15. So students get a lot of individual attention from the professor, as well as the opportunity to engage in a lot of rich hands-on learning experiences with their classmates in those small groups. And those courses are taught by hand-picked faculty members. So we pick some of the best professors we have here at Northern. We ask them to design their dream course. So they're teaching something they're really passionate and excited about, and that gets the students excited too. Students then in their 3rd and 4th years have the opportunity to complete upper division honors, and then they have the opportunity to do research projects with faculty in their major field. Those opportunities are really exciting because you get to do research as an undergraduate, and they can also be helpful then when it comes time to apply for a job after graduation or graduate school. Those faculty members know the students really well and can write excellent letters of recommendation. Socially, we have an honors student organization, so that is a great way for students to connect. And Dr. Michael Joy and I, the director of the program, serve as secondary advisors to all honors program students. So we help students kind of navigate college life and serve as secondary kind of backup advisors to help students with anything that they need.
Great, thank you very much.
Jerry, a question for you.
Okay.
Is there a Facebook page for class of 2025?
You know, we've been getting that question, so I really appreciate it. It sounds like from my staff, we're going to have one ready by the end of this week. So it looks like maybe someone's daughter was looking for that, and she can look later this week. She should be able to find that. And we were just talking about the honors program, and so maybe we could just add a little bit more about that, and maybe then Kat, you could chime in too, because this person's wondering if there's a special dorm for honors students. So I don't know who wants to start, but maybe my Kat is.
Yeah. So first of all, I should really mention, and I failed to do so during my introduction, but at Northern, we have a 2-year live-on requirement. So for the first 2 years of a student's career here at Northern, they get to live with us for 2 years, okay? So many times when we all went to school, or what we think of when we think about going to college and living in the residence halls, we think of us identifying with a certain hall. But at Northern, we do something very different. We call it a house model. And so what we've done is we've broken up a building into smaller communities. Communities are about 50 people on average to an RA. And each community has their own name, has their own identity, their own traditions and such. So instead, for me, if I was a student, I'm no longer one of 300 to 400 students in a building. I'm now one of 50. So I get to make connections at a much deeper level than maybe I would have if I was in a larger building, or, you know, that we didn't have those house communities. And why I'm telling you this is because we do have 2 academic houses on campus. We have one that's in Quad 2, which are our traditional residence halls. And then we have one that is in the woods, which is our newest of residence halls. A few years ago, we had a group of students who came to us in a house, and they said, we want our house to be an academic house. And they had collected signatures. They had put together a proposal for us, and they had a whole plan of how they were going to do that and what their goals were going to be and expectations, what those expectations were going to be as well for their house community for years to come. And so we were able to do that. We were able to make one for the woods. So those are very popular houses. They're not always easy to get into because when you get into them, people don't want to leave all 4 years. So it's just a really nice group of folks. But all of our houses, we all have academic goals. So no matter if you're in an academic house or not, your house is going to have an academic goal. That's the biggest reason why we're all here, is to earn an education. So we spur each other on and keep each other accountable.
Thank you very much.
Paul, is there a main dining facility on campus, and is there a certain meal plan that freshmen have?
So yes, to both. We have our premier dining facility is the Northern Lights Dining. We just renovated that facility just over 2 years ago. And it is kind of a compilation of venues, unique micro restaurants within that space. So students that live in the Woods complex are actually directly connected to Northern Lights Dining, but we're just a short walk across the courtyard for those in the more traditional resident halls over in Quad 2. So we're open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 9 to 8 on weekends currently. Sometimes those hours do fluctuate, but basically you can find everything from burgers and fries and pizza to braised short ribs and polenta. So we have a little bit of everything. We have a staff of full-time culinarians and culinary team that produce the food there. And that's just one of the multiple operations that we have on campus. And the second part of your question, Chris, was? Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, I'm sorry. The certain meal plan that freshmen have. Sorry.
Yep, that's okay. So meal plans, as far as students coming in, are required to be on one of our primary residential meal plans, which is either the silver, gold, or platinum plan. So all of those plans are unlimited dining plans, because the last thing we want your students to have to worry about is where and how and when to eat on campus. We want their food to be easy. So we've got a lot of operations. We're very uniquely defined in each of our operations. So when you feel like Mexican food, you can go to Fiera's, or you feel like a great gourmet grilled cheese, you can go to Melted. So you've got distinct dining options for them. Those meal plans come with a different degree of dining dollars, which essentially translates to flexibility. So the more dining dollars you have, the more flexibility your student will have to dine across our multiple areas on campus. But with all of those plans, they will get some exchanges, which are used at our newest Wildcat Den in the Northern Center, and unlimited access to Northern Lights Dining. So there should be no reason for anybody not to have great dining options across campus.
That's for sure. I know when I go down to Northern Lights, I just spend my time wandering around like, what should I eat? What should I eat? It all looks so good. So thank you for that. You know, there was a question related to honors students and registration for classes. And I thought it might be also good then for you just to talk in general, Chris, about how students are advised and how they register for classes. You want to start with that?
Okay. So our freshmen basically register for classes at orientation. And we are changing it up, of course, because we're assuming we're going to be virtual again. So, you know, things might be a little different this year, but they are assigned to what we call a centralized advisor. And our central advising staff deal with our first year students. And so they will help them, they'll get them registered in classes based on the major that they've selected, et cetera. They tend to stick with gen ed classes for the first semester because we know our students change their majors. And if we have them in gen ed classes, they're not wasting credits. So that's kind of how it works. After that, For their second semester, they are also with centralized advising. Then we're starting a new program this year, and by the time your children get here, we will have 10 embedded advisors we're hoping to go up to 13 to 15. This means that they are embedded in academic departments. So they will be experts in the major. And then the faculty can move more towards mentoring. So that's kind of the way we think it will work. We hope that provides really good service for your students.
And just one thing you said, Chris, about being virtual, you meant orientation.
Yes.
Next summer is going to be virtual.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I just want to make sure to clarify that because we plan to be in person again.
Yeah, orientation. We're planning for virtual orientation, and we're going to try to be a little flexible if COVID allows us to be, where we might be able to, pull off 2 in person if COVID allows us.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then Anna, so for honors program students, they're advised by an advisor, as Chris described, but then you also said that you and Dr. Joy serve as co-advisors too. So you're talking with the students about their classes, but they have some different kinds of courses that they take, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I can give you an example from this summer. We worked, also did an honors program orientation during the regular summer orientation, this year virtually. And then after students had met with their central advisor, Dr. Joy and I followed up individually with all 95 incoming students to make sure that they were in the correct courses. So we took a look at their transcripts, make sure that they didn't have any overlap with some AP credit they had earned, or they wanted to add a language class, we make sure they got that in, or they wanted to be in a certain honors program course, we made sure and worked with their advisors to get them in those correct courses. So, and generally in their first 2 years, honors program students take one of our 4 core courses, and those all fill general education requirements. So as Chris was mentioning, early on, as students are trying to figure out what their major might be, or they're flip-flopping from one to the next, as they take those honors program courses, they're making progress not only towards graduating with an honors designation on their transcript, but just graduating, period.
Great.
Katie, what kinds of services do you provide students regarding job placement?
I'm so glad you asked, because for whatever reason, I didn't tell you guys what I do. So I apologize for that. So we love working with students, whether they're just coming into the institution or if they're getting ready to graduate. We help with students finding jobs to work, while they're going to school. So hopefully we can find something or help them to find jobs to kind of shore up their experiences that might contribute to their long-term goals in their career. But if not, there's obviously those transferable and translatable skills that they'll gain from the different work experiences that they do have over the time that they're here with us. So we definitely work with students with the goal of helping them form a career plan so that they aren't, kind of at graduation, kind of concerned and worried about where they're going to go, where they're headed. But I can say what we definitely do is we work to individualize our support to that individual student. So if they have a great resume already set to go, that we help them work on that great resume and make sure that it's ready to submit to their specific jobs that they're headed after. If they're struggling with the interview process, we'll sit down and do a mock interview process with them. And that can be a lot of fun to just kind of bounce ideas and thoughts off of the student and kind of support them through that process. If they're having trouble finding jobs in the areas that they want to move to, our services aren't just for the UP or the Marquette area. We definitely work with employers across the US, and we do have some international opportunities posted on our web-based platform called Handshake that your students will want to take advantage of, because it's a great platform where we post all the events, job fairs, all that kind of thing. And we really want to encourage our students to think outside the box, not just focus on the Indeeds and that kind of thing in the world, but to actually reach out to employers and seek out opportunities that might not be as overtly posted. So we work with students and we try to meet them where we're at, and we want the best for our students, and we want to see them successful and happy and kind of leaving Northern with plans. So.
Thank you.
Paul, there's a follow-up question for you. Someone's wondering if the meal plans have to be used up by the end of the year, or can it roll over to the next year?
So all of our meal plans, there's multiple facets. So let's start with the unlimited meal plans, the silver, gold, and platinum. So from semester to semester, they're still unlimited, but the dining dollars associated with those plans roll over from semester to semester. At the end of the year, any remaining dollars are forfeited. However, that rarely happens. The Starbucks addictions usually take hold, and students find creative ways to use up the rest of their dining dollars. Between sushi at Tamaki, or a sushi party from Tamaki, or multiple smoothies, or smoothies for their entire hall, they find creative ways to use up their dining dollars. So they're unique in the sense that students that want a lot of variety often opt for the platinum plan. It's the most makes the most sense from a budget standpoint, with more dollars for your dollars. So you can get the most maximum opportunity and variety to dine across campus with that, but very rarely do dining dollars get forfeited at the end of the year.
I want to get in on one of those smoothie parties. That sounds pretty darn tasty.
Yeah. Mike, besides the FAFSA, do we need to do anything else to be considered for aid? And when will we find out what financial aid we will receive from NMU?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think the first part of that, or really talk about the second part of your question, is that the FAFSAs have been available since October 1st. And students have been filling out their FAFSAs for the 2021-22 academic year already. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to collect those FAFSAs until about Thanksgiving. And at that point, we will start processing financial aid for the upcoming fall semester. We will start putting out our financial aid notices sometime in the middle of December, with the goal to get them into the households by Christmas, before we leave for Christmas, so people are receiving them over the break. And that will give people an opportunity to understand what type of resources that they are eligible for based on the federal application. As families are receiving our financial aid notices, they should be looking at those carefully and to see what's involved. And because one of the things that I want to catch people's eyes is the fact that 30% of our students are selected by the federal government for some additional documentation that they need to supply to our financial aid office to complete a verification audit. And the way you can tell that is on our financial aid notices. If we say estimated financial aid, that means that we're looking for some additional documents, and we're gonna be looking for those, and that way we can complete the final eligibility for families. And even those families that don't have their FAFSAs completed by Thanksgiving, we will continue awarding every 2 to 3 weeks. We'll put out another set of financial aid awards to our incoming students, and we'll continue doing that around the calendar, really. But the sooner that we can get the FAFSAs in place, the sooner we can identify the eligibility to the family, and that they can start making some decisions about, do they need additional resources or what's available to them. So I think one other piece I wouldn't mind adding in here, Chris, is that we also have the ability to work with families that maybe when they're filing their FAFSA application, they're using 2019 tax return information. And in many cases, especially through the COVID season, we've seen a lot of families with maybe a lost income or reduction to income. So we have the ability to work on the federal application to replace the 2019 tax return information that they supplied with a projection of what the 2021 income would look like. And so if you have a case in a family that has a case where there is a lost income, it can be anything from lost income, retirement, maybe parents have separated or divorced, or a loss of a parent, so that income is no longer there. Different reasons, if family has excessive out-of-pocket medical expenses, those are the families that really should contact my office and talk to one of my counselors so that we can see if there's something that we can work out and if it makes an impact on the financial aid eligibility.
Thanks. And there's a follow-up already for you, Mike. So is FAFSA looked at when considering presidential scholarships? Maybe that's for Jerry. I don't know who's that.
Well, I'll answer in the form of no. You don't need to have a FAFSA in place to be part of this competition and to receive the award. But there definitely is an impact on the fact that if a family is a high need family, they still can get a Pell Grant on top of the Hardin Award or even on top of the presidential as well. And it really is a good practice to get that out there. You know, part of the award might be that we're going to identify student loan eligibility as well. Families are not required to take the loans, but we're required to let you know that that's a resource that's available to help pay for your education. So.
Great, that's a really good point. On this next question that came in, Kat, I think I'm going to throw it to you. The question is, can my student have a car in the first 2 years on campus? Which of course they can, but maybe you could speak a little bit to the car culture on campus. You know, how many students in the residence halls have cars? How do they use them? What are the ups and downs of having a car?
Yeah, I like that car culture. Nice one, Jerry. I like that. You know, I don't know what the percentage is of students who have cars, but yes, students have cars, but you don't have to. And there's plenty of students who don't have cars. The nice thing, if you don't have a car, is you're not dealing with carting everybody around. You're not dealing with shoveling your car out in the middle of winter and all of that. So there's pros and cons to both. If students do have a car, you do have to pay for a parking pass. I believe it's, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, $70 or $75 a year? Something like that.
Wrong. I think it's more like
semester, $140 a year.
$140 a year.
Yeah, $140. Yeah, I meant, okay, so it's, okay. I'm hopeful that things are going to be a lot cheaper. Sorry. So you'll need a parking pass. And we have plenty of parking. There's tons of parking. Now it's not always like right up to their door, but you know, when I lived in an apartment, my parking lot wasn't right up to my door either. It is what it is. But I think that I haven't heard of a lot of students, actually any this year, who haven't been able to get a parking spot. If I do hear it's complaining, it's just because it's not right outside of the door that they go into. But definitely, like if you don't have a car, we normally now with COVID, it's a little bit differently, but I would think by fall, I'm hoping by fall, then we have had Mark Tran, our public system, has just come right to the residence halls on Fridays and would take students for free. The university pays for that, but they would bring them up to like Walmart or Target or Meijer. So lots of students use that. So, you know, the beach is literally 5 blocks away. And so what else do you need? You need food, which is down the hall. You need a beach, and you need your academic building. And so like it's just right there.
I like the way you put that. That's good.
That is good. Rachel, this is a short question, but it's loaded. So what can students get involved in?
That is a wonderful question, and maybe all the parents can help me. We can be in on this together. So I would encourage you to encourage your son or daughter to get involved in something. We started this campaign and we're going to continue it in the fall. It's called Pick One. So we really encourage you to say that to your children. Say, what's your one thing you're going to get involved in? There's over 300 registered student organizations on campus. There's really something for everyone. And if there isn't, it's really easy to start a club, which is fantastic. We have a wide variety of clubs and organizations. We have from student government, religious organization, Greeks. We have programming groups that bring like speakers and concerts to campus, community service groups, sports clubs, environmental clubs, film, dance, you name it, honor societies, academic organizations that go along with your major. So there really is something for everyone. Some of the popular ones right now, Tree climbing is very popular, and slacklining is very popular. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but just this past year, we started a naturalist club. So that's also out there if someone's interested. There's not a lot of members.
Dr. Erickson mentioned that we had a snowfall today, so maybe it's less popular.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, I had to say that. There's some questions here about, I think, the process, Kat, of signing up for housing. Like, when does that registration period open?
Sure. So our application is going to be available online starting normally from the end of January to the beginning of February. So be watching for that. You can put your name and your email on our website starting, I would say January. And what happens is when that is available, you'll get an email saying, oh, it's up and ready, hurry up and get your application in. To put your application in, it's a $50 application fee, it's non-refundable. When you fill out your application, you will also be able to pick your dining plan, and you can also pick your roommate. It's kind of it's a little different. I like to kind of give you a warning on this one. So after you fill out your application, you'll log out and then you have to log back in. We can't figure out why. It's just a computer thing. But you kind of log out and you log back in, and then you can start looking at your roommate preferences. So we have something called like a roommate finder. It's like Match.com, but for roommates. You know, like I like to watch Grey's Anatomy and I like my room to be clean, and you would pick all these different things, and it'll match you up with folks. Then you can see their profile. They'll also have a profile, and you can take a look at it and see if you might match. You can then contact them. You set up the types of contact that you're okay sharing. And so then you can contact the person and see if they want to be your roommate. If you don't go that way, which we have students who don't have a roommate, they don't pick a roommate, we will help you find them. We will look at what your preferences are. We call them, there's 5 different preferences. Do you smoke? Or do you prefer a roommate who does not smoke? Do you prefer a roommate who does not drink alcohol? Do you prefer your room to be clean or messy? And it talks about noise level. So there's like 5 different questions. And our staff here in the office will match you up with someone. Again, kind of like a Match.com, using the computer system. And it's all kind of done by hand and with the computer that we will set you up with a roommate. After we receive your $200, there's a $200 advance payment then. That $200 goes towards your bill. So it's not on top of your room and board, but it's actually, it would go towards your room. Once you receive that, and once we are at that moment, usually end of May, we will let everyone know, okay, you can select your room. And so you can go in and you can actually go in and pick the exact room that you're going to be in. So that's the process. $50 application fee, your application, complete that, then complete with your $200 advanced payment. And then finally, the beginning of August, we send out letters letting everyone know, okay, this is who your roommate is, this is where you're living, this is when you can check in. So I can't believe we'll start working on that. We've already started working on that now. So it's amazing to think that's coming up.
President, you know what the follow-up question usually is, Kat, is, so do you put messy with messy or clean with messy or clean with clean? How do you do that in roommate match?
Well, I mean, if someone says that they prefer their room to be clean, I would prefer to put someone who has the same expectations in with them. What sometimes can happen, and I'm a mom, so I get it, but some of the parents will, like the student doesn't want to fill out the application and they say to the parent, oh, you just do it, I don't care. And so then the parent fills it out the way they think it should be filled out. That's where we run into some problems. And also to remember that what I think is clean is not necessarily what other people think are clean. So I find that even in my own house, there's lots of discussion about those expectations. So it's just a good thing to kind of keep in mind.
Great.
Katie, does NMU provide internships?
Yes, so some departments actually have it built into the curriculum as a required component of getting your degree through that program. Sometimes it's, an elective or an option for you, depending on your program. If it's less structured, we can come in and help with that process for sure. Right now on Handshake, I just looked, we have 2,500 internships posted there alone that students can peruse and check out. So if your student's having difficulty finding a great opportunity, we're happy to assist them in our office. But this is usually a partnership with faculty as well, because if the student wants to get academic credit, that's going to be a conversation with their faculty advisor. But we in Career Services are happy to help with that conversation and to develop a plan. And we're always trying to reach out and increase the number of employers that we're communicating with to increase those opportunities, so students have diverse options as they kind of go out and seek those opportunities. If the department doesn't have a required internship, it's very likely that they have something else in place where they have clinical experiences that student gains or research built into their program. So Northern takes really good care of their students, and so it's not to say that just because maybe there's not an internship built into the program that there's not experiential learning still built in. I love to hear faculty and staff talking about the projects that they'll incorporate into their coursework. And when I talk with students to build resumes, we always find a place for that on their resume so that it's reflected that they do have work experience in that area. So yeah, internships for sure.
Thanks, Katie.
Mike, I'm going to have a question for you in a second, but someone did ask about if a student wins one of the top 20 awards, Presidential or Hardin, and don't end up coming to NMU, is that award given to someone else? And of course, it doesn't happen very often, but we're committed to giving away those top 20 awards. So I'll take care of that one real quick. But then Mike, the question for you is, are outside scholarships stackable with NMU scholarships or an aid, or do they replace NMU aid? So it's that outside scholarship question.
Yeah, the answer really is that we, to the maximum extent, we are going to stack those scholarships. And where I can think about impacts on when we might have difficulty with that is if the outside scholarship, say, is tuition specific, and the student wins one of the Presidential or Hardin Awards, where we're already paying tuition with that. So at that point, what we would do is reach back out to the student and to let you know that there is an issue, of compatibility, and work where we can work with the donor, the original donor of the private scholarship, to see if they have the flexibility to allow that to cover other educational costs. So that might be a case where we might run into some conflict, but our initial gut instinct isn't to say, you found something, we're going to replace our institutional scholarships or institutional grants. We just try to work as much as possible to include all of the aid. Another instance where it might impact aid in general, and not just institutional aid, but is if we have to monitor what we call a cost of attendance budget. That's a federally mandated budget where we say that's the combination of an estimate of our tuition and fees, room and board, estimate for books, personal expense, and travel. And we have to come up with a budget that a typical student would pay for their education for the year, not just direct costs. And that also becomes a maximum amount of financial aid per federal regulations that a student can receive. So at sometimes we have scholarships that come in that we weren't aware of, that of significant value that could put that cost the student up with a combination of their other aid above that cost of attendance, at which point we do have to make adjustments. But also, if you don't mind, Jerry, maybe I'll just mention here too about private scholarships. In general, this is the time to be looking for those scholarship opportunities. They're out there. They're tough to find, but they are out there, and you just have to be persistent. And what I would say is if you want to think about a couple different places to start looking, first place I would say is look at with parents' employers and the student's employer. If you work for a union shop, maybe within the union they have scholarships. If check with the high school guidance counselor. They're always aware of different scholarship opportunities around the local area. Check with the service organizations like the Rotary and the Moose and the Elks and all the other animals. Check with those organizations to see what type of scholarships are available. Think about things that the student has been involved with. Like my son, he received a scholarship because he was in the Boy Scouts. So maybe different organizations that your student is involved with, how can you parlay that into a scholarship opportunity? And sometimes when you work with a smaller organization, maybe your student is volunteering time to a smaller organization. That can lead to maybe that organization doesn't have scholarships directly, but maybe they've written a reference letter for a different student at another time with a different organization that they can point you in the right direction. So this is the time to really start looking for these scholarships over and above and in addition to everything else that you're doing. So.
And I think this is probably a great point. We have about 4 or 5 minutes left in this hour. And the bottom line is, I think, especially with financial aid, but everybody here, if students and families have questions, really reach out to your office because every situation is so different. And if people want to know, how is this going to impact that? I know your staff is great about working with families. So we'll just put that plug in for reaching out to you guys directly. There's one other question here related to the scholarship competition, which I'll answer quickly and then throw it back to Chris. But somebody's asking when we'll receive the results of the Presidential Scholars Competition. And our goal is to have all of those awards made by mid-December. So we'll be notifying students for the top 20 scholarships, first with a phone call and a follow-up letter. And then all of the other scholarship winners will follow up with a letter. And then we'll make sure every competitor does get a communication. So that's our goal in mid-December.
Okay, Paul, we had a question about food allergies and how your staff works with that if a student comes in with a food allergy.
Great question. And we get that question often, but I mentioned earlier that we take a very individualistic approach, that we want students to meet directly with Brett Peterson, who is our registered dietitian. He meets either face-to-face or over confidential Zoom. And basically, he's going to do a consultation. That's a free service that we provide to every student that's on campus, honestly, whether they're in the resident halls or on a meal plan or not. His services are available because we want students to feel comfortable and safe while eating on campus. So he'll meet with your student and talk about their specific dietary restrictions or allergens. And then he'll potentially even give them multiple tours of different facilities on campus to ensure that they feel comfortable. In severe cases, we actually have those students meet directly with our culinary team, our managers, and the staff to put names and faces together so that we'll pick on Abigail. When Abigail comes in, we know who she is and what she's there for, and we're going to make sure that we take care of her and her specific meal. We've gone as far as even setting up some texting with managers and students so that they can actually just text their managers and say, hey, I'm coming down to eat in about an hour, and we'll have their food ready for them. Again, that's kind of a rare occurrence, but again, the goal is safety, and we want to make sure that all of your students are feeling comfortable and safe while dining. So just a note that every student with any food allergy at all on campus, we want to be in touch with our registered dietitian because he will make sure that they are absolutely safe while on campus.
Oh. There's another timeline question here, Anna. This one's for you. If someone has applied to the honors program, how soon do they find out about that?
Well, if you get your application in soon, it's a really quick turnaround. As we get more and more applications in, though, it takes a little bit longer. But generally, once we receive a completed application, and that does include the essay that the student writes and the letter of recommendation from a teacher or a principal or a coach. Sometimes that's the thing that can hold up an application, but we'll follow up with you to make sure that gets in at the most a month, but sometimes it's just a few days after receiving that completed application that you'll hear from us.
Perfect. And there's a question here about AP credit and CAP credits and students testing out of courses. And I'll answer the one about AP credits in just a second, but there's one here about language, Anna, so maybe you can help us with that too, since you're in that department. Someone's asking when they can test out of the language course.
Yes, so we can do that with AP credits and also a number of different tests. If your student is interested in continuing a language that they studied, say in high school, we have an online placement exam that can be taken at any time before a student arrives on campus or once they get here. That usually only takes about 20 minutes, so it's something that can be done relatively quickly. And then in our Department of Languages, Literatures, and International Studies, we can work with the individual student to make sure they're in the appropriate course. That can be a really great thing. Say your student has had 4 years of high school Spanish and they test into second or third semester Spanish. If they get a B or a C or better in that course, they can get the four credits prior to that for free. So they've done 4 credits of work, they get 8 credits on their transcript, and they're that much closer to a minor certification or even a major in that field.
Perfect. And last question we're going to take, and then we'll have to wrap it up because our time is up. But for AP credit, CAP credit, dual enrollment credits, all those kinds of things, there's a great Northern website that's just nmu.edu/transfer. And from that page, you'll find links to our bulletin copy about AP credits, IB credits, CLEP credits, but also on that page is a great transfer tool. So if you're attending any courses at another college or university, you can enter that college or university and look up the courses you've been taking to see what those credits are. So I encourage you to go to that tool. So we are out of time. That hour went by so fast. There are still some questions in the queue, but as I said, I'm going to make sure that we get those answered in an FAQ on the Presidential Scholars website. If you have questions that you think of later, feel free to email me directly. It's just gdaniels@nmu.edu, and I'll get those to the appropriate people and make sure that we get the answers back to you. But thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you spending some time with us. And just please know that all of us and really everybody on campus is available to help you and answer your questions and your son or daughter's questions as well. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.